The crisis Sammy faced centered on Nick Scibetta, the kid brother of his wife. He was a good kid, nice as you could want, growing up, Sammy said. But then the drug culture sweeping the country snared him. He started doing cocaine, and to make matters worse, he began drinking heavily. There were car crashes and arrests for drunk driving. Louis Melito phoned Sammy to report that somehow Nick had ended up in a gay nightclub owned by John Rizzo. A major brawl had erupted. The police had been called. "I got down there right away and got him out of the joint before the cops started pulling people in," Sammy said. Another incident involved the son of Tony Jets, a Gambino family associate. Nick and the son had gotten into a fight, and the son had beaten him up. Nick went to the police, and the son was arrested for assault. "He was being marked as a rat," Sammy said, "but I made Nick change his story, so the charges were dropped, and that settled that." In still another incident, Nick had apparently insulted the daughter of Georgie DeChico, Frank DeChico's uncle. Now, Frank didn't get into this, but the girl's father went bananas. He goes to Toto. He wants Nick roughed up. I step in and say, "I'll take care of it. Let me handle it." I talked to Nick, and I slapped him in the face pretty hard. But it was better than him getting his arms and legs broken. There are other situations with the kid. I'm trying to figure out what to do. Maybe get him the hell out of Bensonhurst. But unbeknownst to me, Paul Castellano is hearing about all this. It's being put on record with Paul. The drugs and the drinking, the thing with Tony Jet's son, Georgie DeChico's daughter, and so on and so forth. Paul decides he ain't tolerating this no more. It reflects on the family, he says. Paul grabs Frank DeChico and tells him to get Sammy's crew and to whack out the kid. And he says to be sure not to tell me nothing about it. Frank gets in touch with Louis Melito and Stymie, who ain't made yet, and tells them, "This is what we got to do. This is what the boss wants." Stymie is Joe D'Angelo. He would become like my Luca Brasi, Don Corleone's guy in The Godfather. There wasn't nothing he wouldn't do for me. Him and Louis say to themselves, "How could we do this behind Sammy's back?" They get together with Frank and tell him this. Frank agrees with them. He goes to Paul and says, "This is wrong, not telling Sammy." Paul finally says, "Okay, you have a meeting with Sammy. Tell him what my orders are. If he doesn't go along with this, I want him killed on the spot." That's what I first found out from Frank himself about what's going on. When Frank finishes, I tell him, "Fuck Paul. I'll take Paul out first." Frank looks at me. "Come on," he said. "You go to war with Paul and you're a dead man guaranteed. Louis and Stymie will be killed. Stymie for sure, if he goes with you, which he will. And in the end, your brother-in-law will still die anyway, so what good would it do?" I couldn't talk to Toto about this. Paul has purposely kept him out of the loop. This piece of work is off the record. If I talk to him, he's involved too. Besides, I pretty much knew what he'd say. The boss is the boss. I said to Frank I wished he'd never told me. He said, "Think about it. How could we live with ourselves without telling you? How could we look you in the eye?" So now I got an option. It's to die with Nicky. I choose against Nicky. I took an oath that Cosa Nostra came before everything. I never thought it would come down to this, but it did. I was devastated. I was thinking of my wife and my in-laws, what good people they are, and how devastated they would be. I was hoping that it would be like he just disappeared. It would be better for his mother and father. They knew he was a crazy kid. Maybe he had met somebody, some group of people, and run off. The bottom line is that I let it happen. That makes me just as guilty. I didn't know his body would be chopped up afterwards. That's not me. I mean, when Junior Persico told me to bring back that guy's ear out on Long Island, I wasn't about to do it, order or no order. The cops found his hand somewheres. There was a memorial. I figured my job was to comfort the family as much as possible. What else could I do?